Hello, I hope everyone is doing alright. This is part 2 of how the past hinders us from progressing. You heard statements like the only thing that you need to do to change your life is to change your mindset. Well, that is true in itself, but there is much more to that statement than just changing your mind or your mentality. There is something you can only change when you know that something is wrong, and you can only change when you know what is wrong. So you can only uncondition your mind when you know what you've been conditioned to. By that I mean, so when you say you are conditioning your mind or you are changing your mindset, to what are you changing your mind to? From what are you changing your mind from? So we need to answer these questions if we are to really change our minds or change our mentality. So for example, we have people that attend seminars, entrepreneurial seminars. We have people that read entrepreneurial content, and they do everything that an entrepreneur is supposed to do, and yet they do nothing pertaining to entrepreneurship. What causes them to not do or act as they have been told? So they go and learn, and they keep learning, but they don't do anything. That is because, yes, they keep listening to these things, but they don't know what needs to be fixed. They don't know what they've been conditioned to, so they keep trying a lot of different things, and none of the things that they try works for them. And that was my case for a very long time, over 7 years. So I kept listening to motivational content. I continued to expose myself to positive things, but yet I seemed to be not acting. Then it bothered me very much, so that I now began to do some research as to why I'm not doing the things that I want to do, as to why I'm not pursuing the things that I need to pursue. And one thing I discovered is that there is much more to just conditioning your mind than just the word itself. What we are not taught is that there are things that were imprinted in us in the infancy of life that condition who we are, and as a result, the decisions that we make are based on our conditioning in the infancy of years. So we can try to do everything that we can outside, but if we don't deal with the core issue, we'll keep finding ourselves in the same situation over and over again. And because we don't see results, we end up being frustrated or think things don't work out, not knowing that we are not dealing with the main issue, and that is what was planted in us, what habits, what attitudes were planted in the infancy of life that is hindering us from progressing. So we have people who their insecurities were built up in their early years. We have people that have a competitive spirit that was built up in their early years. We have issues of where when you were a kid, you are always compared to someone else, and as a result, you have grown up with that mindset of wanting to prove yourself. So everything you do is all about wanting to prove yourself to people around you. Unknowingly, you want to please those around you, because even in the infancy of your years, that is what you are expected to do. You are always compared to the neighbor's kid. Why don't you be like that one? Why don't you be like that one? Why are you always like this? And that is the kind of setup that you were born in, that has conditioned who you are today. And the decisions that you make, even if you try to make something outside of that, it is impossible to make decisions outside of that and act upon it. Because what causes someone to listen to something motivational, be pumped, like be motivated, go and write resolutions, and then 3, 4, 5 days later they go back to the very thing that they have been doing their entire life? Because why? They are not dealing with the core issue, and that is what is it in me that causes me to act a certain way? What is it in me that makes me not committed? What is it in me that causes me to be angry? What is it in me that makes me detach myself from people? What is it in me that is hindering me from the things that I want to do? Until that matter of what causes you that in a way amenshi akonkom following abema proverb, like there's a drainage follows water follows a drainage. So even if you try to make a decision outside of that drainage, you will always find yourself making decisions in line with that drainage. When we talk of entrepreneurship, for example, and there are many people, if not all, people that want to be entrepreneurs, and yet a minority of people end up being entrepreneurs. Why is it like that? Because there are a lot of people that read books on entrepreneurship, that attend seminars on entrepreneurship, and yet none of these people actually they end up deciding, like truly deciding, this is what I will do with my life. They will either try to find something that excuses, for example, like I will work for maybe for 3-5 years, then after that raise enough capital, then start my own business. So even if you tell these people that you don't need capital to start a business, in their mind it is already imprinted in them that I will need to work for a few years and then go back into my business, because that is a mentality that we were brought up in, that we were conditioned in. Business was not something that was favored upon. So employment is something that was favored upon. So your whole life, the only thing that you have learned is to look for a job. If anything, many people, especially my age, we heard about entrepreneurship maybe after high school or in high school, but imagine all those years you are only listening about that. You're only listening to things like you need to look for employment, and then the thought of entrepreneurship was only entertained after you completed your high school or when you were in high school. And it is very difficult to change habits that were built in the infancy of years, attitudes that were built in the infancy of years, seeing life from that point of your early years, until you begin to deal and know exactly what is causing you to act the way that you act, to decide the way that you act, like what really influences the decisions that you make. Until that thing is found, you will keep finding yourself making the same mistakes over and over again, making the same decision and finding yourself in the same situation again, because your makeup is such that you find yourself in such a situation. We look at, for example, the issue of entrepreneurs. So when you hear most entrepreneurs, when they talk about where they started, there's always that traces of when they were young, where they were doing some business related issues, either family or just themselves in school and the likes, and that is the condition that was built up. So it's even easy for them in their or older age to pursue entrepreneurship, because that makeup has already been conditioned in their system. So if we also are to be like in true entrepreneurs, when, for example, someone will start entertaining the thought of entrepreneurship at 20, they will continue entertaining it until maybe they are 40. That is when they will actually venture into entrepreneurship, because the system that was built 20 years before has to be redone with or get away with, and then build certain characteristics that will actually cause that person to pursue entrepreneurship again. And now, if you knew that I am not pursuing the things that I want to pursue because there's something in me that is hindering, there's a drainage in me that was set up a long time ago, and that keeps hindering me, that keeps making me go back to the same thing over and over again. Because truth be told, we were raised or brought up and conditioned to look for employment, and everything that we do, even if you talk to that person day and night, try to convince them that entrepreneurship is the only way, they will go back and begin to think of where am I going to send my application next. Yes, they entertain the thought of entrepreneurship, but their makeup is employment. So they can't see themselves as entrepreneurship. They can't see themselves as entrepreneurs, but as employees. And then the only time that they see themselves as entrepreneurship is when they are employees. That is when they begin to think about entrepreneurship. And that was more like my case, because where I was brought up, the thought of running a business or entrepreneurship was not something that was entertained. It is something that was shown upon, or it is something that was looked at as a difficult thing, or you lose money and other things related to entrepreneurship. But mostly it was in the negative aspect. So that is a mindset that we looked upon entrepreneurship. So even in our old age, subconsciously we still look at entrepreneurship in the negative sense. So even when we act subconsciously against pursuing entrepreneurship. So until we deal with the issue that is at hand, that is what habits were built up in the infancy of our years, we will keep making the same mistakes. And right now we are in the midst of desiring an economic revolution where we need as many entrepreneurs as possible. But if we as entrepreneurs, as people that are aspiring to be entrepreneurship, don't deal with certain core habits and attitudes that were built in our infancy of years, that causes us not to take risk, avoid risk at all cost, and look for security at all cost, it is something that we will not be able to achieve that economic freedom as a country and as a continent. So until we begin to redo those systems and habits and really confront them, we say, okay, I know that I'm the way that I am right now because maybe my father was absent in the house, so I built up certain habits and attitudes that are working against me. Or maybe in my early years I was always compared to someone, or maybe in my early years I was always told to maybe shut up. As a result, I cannot express myself as I want to be. So I want to pursue this course of life, but because of those things that were built in me in the infancy of my years, I'm unable to pursue them. So now I need to begin to deal with those things. Once we come to that realization, and change now will begin to happen, you will realize that you will begin to see life from a different light. I speak this because I am a testament of this. Before, I was so scared to even look at the camera and make this video. I spent over 7 years trying to do these things that I'm doing right now. So, but because I spent years trying to uproot all those habits and systems that were built in me, so that I become as confident as I can and be able to express and present myself in front of people or in front of the camera and present my ideas and present things that I want. Many people are scared of people. They don't know why they're scared of people. Many people are scared of cameras. They don't know why they're scared of cameras. There are certain fears that we have that we don't even know why we are scared of the things that we are scared. All we know is that we're scared of them. So now we need to go back and begin to evaluate our childhood and then begin to see what has caused me to be the way that I am today. What has caused me for me to make the decisions that I've been making. And we will continue with part 3 later on. I will talk more about this in my upcoming book of I Understand Why Now. So I wish you all the best, and I hope that you've learned one or two things and that you will begin to look at yourself and your childhood and begin to confront certain things that are not okay and make better decisions for yourselves. It's only when we confront the past, deal with it, that is only then we will be able to move and progress as a people on an individual basis and as a country, because we cannot continue looking at life from the past. We need to be in the present and accept that this is where we are. We cannot change the past, but how has the past influenced me, and how can I ensure that it does not affect my future? Blessed evening.